And welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, artisanal podcaster.
Today we are talking about Minute 8, which begins with Schmidt poking the snake in the eye and ends with the Tower Keeper's dark prediction for Schmidt. Joining us again on the show today and all week, we have Kurtis Findlay from the Epic Marvel Podcast. Welcome, Kurtis.
Hello, hello. Minute 3 for me. This is great. I've been loving it so far.
So much intensity right now. So much intensity. I don't know why it is, you guys, but the slow push of his finger, his gloved finger, in the first seconds of this minute, which part of the snake is an actual button. I am frozen in time on this minute. Frozen in anxious time.
I don't know. Doesn't the eye look like a button?
It could be the head. It could be something. I don't know. I don't know what's going to push. What's going to push? Who knows?
If he had just actually used the tail as a handle, it would have opened the entire tree, and there's the whole Infinity Gauntlet. He only pushed the eye.
You don't know everything, do you, Schmitty? You don't know everything.
I do think it's funny. Like, it looks like it takes him no time to find the snake, find its eye. He kind of like moves his finger across it, and then it's like at the last minute he's like, no, I'm not going to use my index finger, I'm going to use my thumb, and he like does this switch and he like jabs it right in the eye with his thumb. There's something so funny about that I don't know, it always strikes me as like this comical switch.
So dramatic.
Yeah
He's a gentle push.
It also really makes me want to have a secret compartment somewhere in my house. I feel like that's something that I'm just missing. When I see them work in movies and stuff, I'm like, gosh, what's it going to take to do that? And am I then going to have to kill the person who put it there so they don't know it exists? And I'm the only person.
Well, of course you do. And that's why we don't all have secret compartments, because we'd all have to hide the bodies, and nobody wants to get into that business.
It just takes it into a very dark place for all of us.
Right.
Yeah. This is a moment where we get some great looks from Schmidt. We get to really just see his face. And I gotta say, Hugo Weaving, I mean, I know he's an Aussie. He's great as an Elf King. He's great as a piece of the Matrix. And man, does he look just like a nasty German. I love his look here. Like, he's got a great haircut. His costume's great. It fits perfect. Ann B. Shepard does the costume design for the film. And I mean, he's just fantastic. I don't know. As I watch these particular minutes, our introduction to Schmidt as this character, I just think, God, they found the perfect person to play this character.
It's also funny. He's not that tall of a man, but they shoot him in his menacing moments as if he's a giant. And I think that's a really nice touch. That sort of physical prowess that he exudes in this role is fantastic.
Well, you haven't seen the lifts on his jackboots.
Huge. Big.
The other big thing that we have here, this opportunity to open this thing. Do you two have any feel of the way that he opens this? Is that I anytime I see this sort of thing where we don't get the reveal, it's just a light coming out. Quentin Tarantino's done it. I feel like there's always this reference to this.
That's what I think of.
Yeah, right. We all go to
Fiction.
We all go to Pulp
Isn't it
Fiction.
the same thing? Again, not to lean too heavily into the Raiders of the Lost Ark episodes, but isn't this the reveal of the glowing light inside the Ark of the Covenant?
Yep, totally,
ceremony.
absolutely,
it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much this Pandora's box thing, right? This thing of you don't want to know what's in the box. It's just going to be bad for you.
Yeah.
But I love the way that filmmakers have been playing with light coming out, and we don't necessarily get to see what it is. It's just the illumination, and in this case, also fantastic sound design. I don't know. It feels very spacey, like just kind of this space energy, and so to that end, it's perfect. I don't know. I love it. I love this blue light. It's very fun. It's a great way to emphasize the mystery.
This light, as he does open the box, it's at about 22 seconds, 22, 23, 24, 25. This light has a feel to it to me. I'm just watching it, but it feels like his head should be blown back. The light is thick.
It's intense
in this scene. It is so beautiful. It feels like it should hurt him. And I think that's what leads to, the rest of the line. You haven't looked at this, yet, right? Because it's not meant for human eyes, right? It's not meant for ordinary, human eyes. And that's what it feels like to me. So that tie, that sort of visceral connection to light having a substance to it, is really special right here.
I also love how the light is such a contrast to the rest of the scene, because this whole scene is in a dark tomb. It's all brown, monochromatic, and then the blue is just like the biggest contrast, and therefore it stands out just even more. Like it's there, and you can't help but notice it, because literally everything else in this whole scene has been dull and dingy.
Yeah, it's all that firelight look that we have, very much, and it feels very old world. And this blue thing feels very futuristic, and that's something else that the color also kind of represents that. I love that. And to your point, Pete, like it's not a smoke-filled room, but as he opens it, you have this kind of almost this smoke, this mist emanating from it. So the sound design, the way the light feels very like almost tangible, it all feels very otherworldly. I love the way that it comes across.
Yeah,
now, my question for both of you is, as this sound kicks in, do you guys feel that the sound is actually something that's diegetic, that all of the people in the room are hearing, or do you think that's just for our ears?
That's a really good question.
It shuts off when he shuts the lid,
which
makes me think that it's a diegetic sound, but maybe it's just I like to think of it that way.
I bet it is, but they may not even realize that they're hearing it. Like it's something that's subconsciously understanding or something like that.
And that would tie into exactly what they were talking about, how Schmidt says, you've never seen this, and the Tower Keeper says, it's not for the eyes of ordinary men, which when you hear something like that coming from just opening this box, that also makes it feel like it's extraordinary, right?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. There are a couple of layered elements in the sound design. There's the shimmer, right? There's the shimmer that is really isolated in a couple of quick cuts in as he's staring in silence at it. When the rumble, like the echo rumble of the space, the that's underneath just sort of evaporates. And that shimmer is the thing that feels to me like it is emanating from the Tesseract itself. Everything else just feels sort of dramatic, but that rumble does sort of come back right before he closes the lid to make it I think, more intense. I don't think anybody's hearing the rumbles. I think they're hearing the shimmer. That's my take on it, after rigorous research over the last 7 seconds.
Well, no matter how you slice it, it's interesting. Like, are they feeling the energy? Like, there are so many things that you can read from the way that they portray it here, with kind of that blue, smoky light, the sound.
Yeah.
Everything feels like if I were there, I would be feeling like this energetic thrumming is kind of, I don't know, I feel like they depict it in a way where I almost think that everybody in the room does feel some sort of thing.
I can absolutely get that. I wish they had actually taken a little bit more time to show the impact on the rest of the room, because all we get is David Bradley and Schmidt, and it would be interesting to see, are the rest of the Nazis cowering in the corner behind the sarcophagus? Like, what is it that they're, what's going on around them? How is it impacting the space? Doesn't feel like much, but I'd like to imagine there is.
It would have been nice, to your point, to have, we had a shot of the lieutenant when Schmidt drops the fake Tesseract and shatters it, the Pier 1 Tesseract, as you were saying. That would have been, this would have been a great opportunity to bring him back in, get another shot of his reaction now that he sees the real one, that would have been a nice thing to include, but.
Right.
C'est la vie. This is also, we have this fantastic line that, to what you were talking about in yesterday's Minute, Kurtis, this reference to the Nazis digging for things elsewhere, doing architectural digs and stuff, as he says when he's looking at it, and the Fuhrer digs for trinkets in the desert. What a fantastic line.
Yeah, actually, I think that was the one I was thinking was in the last minute. But yeah, that whole concept, just drawing it in makes it feel real Like this, Schmidt actually existed in World War II for real. I love it.
Well, and especially the digging for trinkets in the desert, as if we don't have enough of an homage to Raiders of the Lost Ark in this movie. Now we're literally calling to the Fuhrer digging in the literal desert that we actually have seen in the same period. Like, I think that's wonderful grounding, both in history and in cinematic history. I think that's a really nice nod and wink kind of a...
Yep. I can't imagine that it's coincidence. It has to be an actual illusion. Yeah.
I mean, Joe Johnston worked in the visual effects department for Raiders. It just makes sense that, he has this connection to that group of people, the Spielberg, Lucas kind of team. It makes sense for him to kind of be playing with that and doing it as his own homage to those projects that all of those people had been working on. So I don't know. I love it. I think it's such a fun little connection there that ties to that film, ties to his history with them, ties to the real history, as you were talking about. I think that is, probably one of my favorite little throwaway lines in the movie. It's just something that has a lot of meat to it.
For sure.
Okay, I want to talk about the snake a little bit, if that's okay. I think that this little compartment that holds the Tesseract, I think it was not there to hide the Tesseract from bad guys. I think it was hidden there as a warning to keep out the good guys away from it. Because we already know, because Filch has already said, this is not for human eyes. The snake, it purposely being hidden behind a snake. Like snakes are always seen as the bad guy, right? They're always the sign of evil. Like, dating back to, the Bible, the serpent in the Garden of Eden.
Well, even in the roots of Yggdrasil, they're eating the roots, right? So, yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah, all of these religions and mythologies have snake characters that are not good. They're up to no good, and so the fact that we have it hidden behind the snake, and what does the snake do in the Garden of Eden? The snake is the tempter, right? It tempts the humans that are there to do something that they shouldn't do, to get involved in something that they shouldn't get involved in. And that, I think, hiding the cube behind a snake is maybe a symbol saying, hey, don't listen to this snake. Leave this snake alone, because this is bad news. You don't want to get involved with this Tesseract.
That's an interesting perspective. I can totally see it. And is it interesting at all? I mean, Andy, you said that you made a point that the light was that there was like it's not a smoky room, but there are waves as if dust comes out of it, right? Like that lends credence that this thing is something to avoid. It's not a utilitarian drawer, right? This is not something they're actively working on. Right. This is a thing that is to be feared and avoided and protected.
And designed in a way where, like, if for some reason they do have to take it out to do something with it, this drawer has a lid to it so that they're still not going to see it. And to that end, it's really interesting the way that there is a layer upon layer to kind of keep them from looking at it and touching it.
Probably could have done a little bit more, like maybe a lock on the lid. Maybe they could have gone one more.
A little combination. What they need is one of those Dan Brown combination locks, like from the Da Vinci Code, where you have to go, what is the word? What is the combination of letters?
Slide pieces around to get all the wood aligned in just the right way. It just feels like they're coming up short. Like it's a lid. Like they did the absolute bare minimum to avoid gaze and no further. So
they figured, you know what? The I button is enough.
The snake will do the trick.
It's a strict, like maybe a C plus effort. That's all I'm saying is that, above and beyond, kids. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to then help me design my secret room so that I can make sure that I have all these layers built.
Don't worry, you'll never get in your own secret room when we're done.
What was that word again? Dang it.
Yeah. Buffoon. It's always buffoon.
Well, I don't know if I have anything else for this other than, just production design. Rick Heinrichs, Shout out to this fantastic panel that we have for Yggdrasil here. Just this whole room, this Castle Rock Tower that we have set here. I enjoy this set quite a bit. I think that it's a fun location for this all to be taking place. Do either of you have any last thoughts?
Is this the minute where the tower keeper says, "You will burn"?
Fool, you cannot control the power you hold. You will burn.
That's right.
And already
that's right.
Showered today.
It's kind of a foreshadow a little bit. If you think about the very end of the movie, I mean, it's not an actual burn, but it's kind of an allusion to that. So I like little lines like that.
Well, and that's interesting, and that's a good point. We can certainly talk about it toward the end of the film when we get to that point. But it does make you wonder, like, what does the Tower Keeper know about this? Like, how did it come into their possession to kind of care for this thing? And what does he actually know about it? That's actually a really interesting thing to kind of think about. Like, what is the story of these tower keepers and the care that they've had for theoretically centuries of this particular object?
Yeah, you're right. And it sort of begs the question, is this their sole task, right? Their sole sort of mission for humanity is to protect this thing. Sure, they sweep and mop and whatever, but are they essentially like custodians of the lore? Or, we don't get any hint of that. And I think by necessity, let's get on with the movie. But I think that's an interesting. This would be a great series for Disney Plus, right? Let's go back and really give David Bradley something to chew on. It's just the Tower Keeper lore,
or at least a one shot or something.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
What does Filch do on his downtime when the Nazis aren't attacking?
Exactly. That's very funny. It is interesting because this whole Castle Rock Tower location that we have in Tonsberg, Norway here, I mean, you'd think that it was a defensive tower at some point when it was kind of this actual castle that they had before the whole thing ended up kind of being destroyed. So, what was there a greater defense for this thing? And it just kind of kept whittling away until,
right.
We just have a tower. That's all that's left.
And a drawer behind the snake.
Tower and a drawer.
Eventually, it's just a standalone drawer.
Okay, one more comment from me, and then I'll have gone through all my notes. There are multiple different cosmic cubes in the comics, and they all seem to eventually take on a human form in the end.
Interesting.
So this, the very first one in particular, became it just became a being called Cubic, and it was just a scientific or a cosmic being, I guess, or whatever. So I'm anxiously awaiting the point when in Marvel Cinematic history the Tesseract becomes a person. I don't know if that'll happen.
Who was responsible for that? Making the cosmic stone or the cosmic cube a person named Cubic.
Oh man,
I think that's a Jack Kirby.
No, it's after that. I can't remember. It might have been Steve Englehart or something, but it's it was in the 80s. I'm pretty sure. And then the Skrulls made a cosmic cube, and then theirs turned into a being called the Shaper of Dreams, I think. And then there's another cosmic cube that do you know Secret Wars, the comic Secret Wars? The Beyonder merged with the Molecule Man and became a cosmic cube at some point himself, and then that cosmic cube turned into another being or something. I can't remember. There's a very convoluted history there.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot.
Always is.
That's fascinating.
What I like to imagine is that Cubic is actually the connection that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has, or the Marvel Comic Universe has, with the Rubik's Cube cartoon from the 80s. I'm now going to imagine.
Oh, you nerd.
That would be great. If we see a Rubik's Cube in Odin's treasure room at some point, there we go. Or actually, that doesn't exist technically.
That's right. All right. Well, it's been a fun minute. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Kurtis, remind everybody again about your podcast and where they can find it.
Sure thing. I'm at epicmarvelpodcast.com, and you can find us in social media. Just look for Epic Marvel Podcast. We are there, and I just love talking about comics all the time.
Comics all the time. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. We have our own membership. We'd love for you to consider joining us to kind of support the show. You get early access to the episodes. You get hiatus episodes. It's always fun to listen to those. And you can learn more about it at truestory.fm/Marvel Movie Minute. It's $5 a month, or you can get a discount if you join at an annual rate. Pete, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
I could do this all week.
All right, everybody. Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.